Hi all, this is Michael Beasley with Stewart & Grow Real Estate, and this is the fifth and final video in this 5-part series entitled 5 Principles for the Passive Investor. This video series is a primer for any passive investor who's considering adding real estate to their portfolio. So if you like this content, just let us know by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. And if you really get a lot out of this, consider sharing it with a friend. We'd really appreciate it. So in the last video, we talked about the 4th principle, which is understanding the market. Today, we're going to wrap up the series by looking at what is arguably the single most important principle in this entire series, and that's having a relationship with the sponsorship team. So let's talk about what that means. If you go back in a previous video that I did with Tony Castronovo of Novo Multifamily Group, we talked about 6 questions the passive investor should ask the sponsorship team. I would highly recommend that video to you as a passive investor as we get deeper into why the relationship with the team matters. As we talk about having a relationship with the sponsor, I think it's worth mentioning the pillars that uphold any business relationship, but especially the sponsor-investor relationship. And the first pillar is trust. There are a lot of different syndication groups out there. You have to deeply trust the group that you choose. The values that you have and the values that they have to align. The nature of real estate is that it's illiquid. It's a long-term investment, and that relationship between sponsor and investor ought to be as well. And trust is the foundation upon which that relationship can be built. I define trust pretty simply: consistency over time. If you're consistent in doing something for a long period of time, I feel comfortable trusting that you're going to continue to be trustworthy in that arena. So recently I went to this investor meetup, and one of the speakers was talking about how he formed one of his most successful partnerships. I asked him, how did you know this was a guy that you wanted to work with? And his answer was pretty profound. He said, I had watched him be consistent for 2 years. The point is this: trust is built over time. So don't feel like you need to rush into a deal with a sponsor. Get to know them, learn what they believe, and see if you agree. And if you're a good fit, then join them. Next, I'd like to talk about people. So first we talked about trust. Second, we're going to talk about people. People say that a good deal will attract money. I don't agree with that. You can have the best deal in the world, but if you don't have the people and systems in place, the deal's worthless to you. The team you choose needs to have a plan in place before the deal closes. Who's their lender? Who will be managing the property? Are they going to self-manage? Are they going to hire a third-party property manager? Who's the contractor who will be responsible for the reposition of the asset? All these questions need to be answered before the deal closes. So, we talked about trust and how it takes time. We talked about people having a plan. The next topic that I want to touch on is the topic of risk. Investments all have some inherent risk built in. A qualified sponsor knows where those risks are and how to mitigate those risks. Your job as the passive investor is to ask them where those risks are and how they plan to solve for them. For example, a team might present you with a deal and tell you the returns are incredible. And when you ask them, what's the biggest risk in this specific deal? How do they handle that question? Do they shift in their seat? Do they get a little bit uncomfortable? Or do they answer appropriately? The way they handle that question says a lot. They should feel comfortable answering that question very honestly and very transparently. Lastly, I want to talk something that's a little bit more intuitive. It's gut instinct. We all know exactly what I'm talking about. We've all been in a situation where a decision seems clear, but something deep inside says, maybe we should wait. There's a reason that's there. We can subconsciously read when something isn't adding up. There's a lot of feel here. Not everything in business is quantifiable. You can't put everything on a spreadsheet because we're dealing with people. How do you measure a relationship? How do you measure an acquaintance? There's no metric for this stuff. A lot of it's about feel and gut. Yeah, we do research, we look at spreadsheets, but at the end of the day, I have to look at you in the eye and know in my bones that I can protect your investment. That's a heavy responsibility, and that's not one that I take lightly. So trust your gut. If you're feeling the least bit funny about a person or a deal, just wait. Remember, you won't become wealthy from just one deal, but you can lose a good bit of capital on one deal. So that's how you have a relationship with the sponsorship team. You have to trust them, number one. You have to know who their people are. You have to know where the risks are and how they plan to mitigate those risks. And you have to know in your gut that this is the right thing. Once you've established those first 3 things, you can feel comfortable investing with that sponsor. So that wraps up the 5 principles for the passive investor. To recap, the 5 principles are: retain a long-term perspective, understand how investments snowball over time, understand the multifamily business model, understand the market, and last, and my favorite, have a relationship with the sponsorship team. So I hope you've learned something today. If you want to learn more, go to our website at stewardandgrow.com. You can read the articles, you can learn about who we are and what we do. And until next time, go faithfully steward and grow all that's been entrusted to you. God bless. Take care.